for the beautiful city that we enjoy and for all that we have in this great country. And we are so grateful to Thee and Thy hand in all things. And we ask now that Thou would be with us and guide us and help us to make the best decisions for the residents of this city and for our children and families. We pray for safety in all that we do and ask for Thy blessing and hand to be upon all that we do here. And we ask these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Councilmember Morse and Saunders. We appreciate that. And thank you for being here today. We'll move on to our item number 3 for public presentation. This is for residents attending this meeting. There will be allotted 2 minutes to express or a concern or ask a question that they may have that is not on the agenda. No action will be taken or on any issue presented. So do we have anybody that's interested in coming forward today? Okay, seeing none, we'll move forward with action item number 4 on our action on consent agenda. The first one, number A, is our city council minutes that were held on February 16th, 2022. B is for our city special budget work session minutes that were held on February 23rd, 2022. And number C on here was Gardner Engineering for professional engineering services for $16,221.25. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? If not, I'll move to a motion.
Move to approve consent agenda items A, B, and C.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and do a roll call on that. Let's see, Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab,
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders,
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
and Councilmember Call.
Aye.
Looks like the motion passed. Thank you very much. Move on to action item number 5. This is action on Planning Commission meeting recommendations. Number A is action on ordinance number 04-2022. This is for regulating patio homes. And we'll turn the time over to Sherry Phippen, our Community Development Director.
Thank you, Mayor. This has been under discussion for some time. It came to the council previously. The council made some amendments and then asked that it be sent back to Planning Commission for their review. The Planning Commission has gone over it. One of the biggest changes that is coming to the City Council in this version of the ordinance is after review and discussion, the Planning Commission felt it appropriate to incorporate a section that would allow for zero lot line, or what's sometimes called attached single level type patio homes. They did feel that it was appropriate to put some limitations on that limitation being that those would only be able to be done as part of a development agreement, so that the city, if they opted to pursue that type of project, could put some fairly strict parameters on the conditions under which those attached single-family homes would be allowed. Based on a comment I received from one of the council members, there are some additional changes that I think would be appropriate. So I can either mention those, Mayor, or I can leave it to the individual council members to bring those up, whichever you prefer.
Okay, Council, would you like to talk about the items that you talked about in our work meeting?
I can bring up the one that we discussed earlier. One of the things that we talked about is under section 3A-05, location of structures, under item number 1, dwellings under C, on the rear setbacks. We talked about having an average of 18 feet, but adding some verbiage that says that it would be no less than 15 feet.
If that is like a general nod of agreement from the rest of the council, that's a change that I can certainly make
Does the
to
council
it.
feel strongly
I would
about
agree
that?
with that. I think that having at least a very minimum protects us,
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll make that change. then, I
protects the
think.
city.
As well.
So yeah.
Everybody else good with that?
okay.
Any other changes on here that are items of discussion?
You want me to bring up the other one in item 3 in that same section? You know, I don't know how the council feels, but I think it might be a good idea, just even though it's clarified in 2, to just make sure that it's clear under item 3 that accessory dwelling units are not allowed in this part of the ordinance.
One way that that could be accomplished is just by moving the last sentence of number 2 in that section, moving the last sentence that says accessory dwelling units are not permitted. That could easily be put as D under 3 that says no accessory dwelling units are permitted as part of an accessory building or garage.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think it actually is kind of covered because it does say,
I think it would be less likely to be overlooked if we
thinking
took it and moved
if
it.
it's, yeah, somewhere that covers both detached. I guess they both say that, so, yeah, probably fine with it either way.
Well, just as a suggestion, the 2 talks about buildings larger than 200 square feet, but number 3 is 200 square feet and smaller. So it would probably be appropriate having it both, just so then, to be clear, you don't get to put the shack out on the,
Right. That's
that's,
kind of what I was thinking, but
Okay,
however you think that's most appropriate, I'd be
Yeah.
in favor of that.
if others think that's a good idea, I'm happy to do that. I can see the wisdom in that very much.
On the same section on number 2, when it says, the size and location of accessory buildings shall be evaluated and approved during the approval process and outlined in the development agreement. What approval process are we talking about?
That is something that the planning commission didn't look at specifically what they were looking at this time through, but I agree that it's a concern because right now the zone is the zone and they aren't required to go through a separate approval process for the layout of where the homes and stuff are. So
I mean, if they want it bigger than 200 square feet, they have to
get a building permit.
They have to get they have to get that approved. So I wasn't sure if that's that process, because then it also says to put it in the development agreement, but there's only a development agreement if you have 0 lot lines.
Right.
So it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, and saying if it's this approval process, that means they have to already know they're going to have one. What if you want to put one in
Right.
later, a year later after you've moved in?
I think that could easily be amended to say, to just strike that's, let's see.
I'm not exactly sure what it should say, but it didn't make perfect sense to me. So.
Because then it's followed up with a sentence that says, if it's not done that way, you can't have something over 200 square feet. I think what we would probably want to do is have a section similar to 3. Well, sorry, I'm thinking on the fly a little bit. I think those two could actually be combined into into one section. Because when someone has to get a building permit, like the setbacks, and we set height maximums and things like that anyways, and we have percentages of the rear yard, we have limits on the percentage of the rear yard that an accessory building is allowed to occupy. So it's sort of self-governing anyways when it comes to that, and where these are gonna have smaller, generally speaking, smaller backyards. I think those two could probably be combined into one section where it just talks about detached, oh, hi, I'm gonna fall over. Detached accessory buildings and garages. And just have one set of front, side, rear setbacks. I think they can be combined into one section. And if that was the direction that the council wants to go on it, then I would probably just take the last section from 2, move it down to D, move it down to have it become 3D, and then strike 2, and then strike this size thing on 3 where it says 200 square feet and smaller. So that there's just one set of standards. I do think, oh yeah, there's already a maximum height that's set down under maximum structure height. So that's probably what I would do, because I understand your concern with that.
So Sherry, what would D say then? If we take out number 2, D would say,
I would recommend that 3D say, regardless of size of the detached accessory building or garage, accessory dwelling units in those structures are not permitted.
One quick thing, if you look down to the maximum structure height, it does say habitable attic space permitted over garage area.
This is just when it's detached.
We may
so
just
you're
wanna-
talking about, will the garage always be attached, or could the garage be detached?
Because I am in a lot of patio homes, they'll put a set of stairs up to over the garage and have like an extra bedroom or something like that, or just like a playroom for grandkids.
Maybe you just add the word attached,
Oh, okay.
just in case.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of all the possible ways that people could come in and
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Provided that the garage is attached.
Or unattached garages? Oh, that would be
Okay.
not clear.
Any other items we need to discuss?
I've got a couple. In the staff report, you mention design requirements that we're obviously no longer allowed to implement. Is garage size a design requirement?
Yeah, we can't set minimum structure sizes. That's one of the things that was prohibited when the state passed that legislation. We also can't do minimum structure sizes.
Okay. And then also, I guess I'm having a hard time understanding why we would allow 0 lot lines in the first place, because to me, that gives way to allow a twin home in a patio home zone. Do you know what I mean? It sounds like we're allowing twin homes.
I guess I can understand that. Typically, these will be 0 lot lines would be anywhere from 2 to 4, so I can see why you would be concerned about that. I guess I don't understand fully the concern. because it's capped with, the density is capped. The quality of product is equal or, in my opinion, equal or superior to detached patio homes. So I guess I don't understand the hesitation with allowing it.
Well, I just think that, and this is, you know, my thoughts on this, obviously, if someone wants to come in to the city and develop a project with shared walls, like, you know, you would with a zero lot line maybe, then why wouldn't you just do that in a zone that's already allowed in? Why would we allow that in a patio home zone?
Zero lot line, single level ones, they are considered patio homes.
Yeah, sorry, I can't hear you very well.
Switch microphones? Is this one working? No. Sorry, this one was working. Patio home isn't dictated by whether it's detached or attached. It's dictated by, like, the entire living space is contained on a single level.
But I mean, they could do that too in a zone that allows twin homes. They could do the same thing, right?
They could. Yeah, I mean, I think that we have such limited places that allow twin homes, but yeah, they could.
I guess my biggest worry too is that sometimes we've seen this where developers will look at our ordinances and read everything they can and find loopholes, essentially. And I don't want this to be a loophole for high density housing in a patio home zone.
The density cap is already there. They would be required to go through the MDA. I don't mean to sound dismissive of your concerns. That's not my goal at all. I apologize if it's coming across that way. That's one of the reasons the Planning Commission felt like if we were going to ever allow these at all for this type of, for lack of a better term, senior living zone, senior living product, then the only way they were comfortable with it was if it did come in under the MDA, where you require up front what they're going to do, what it's going to look like, things like that. And if you're not comfortable with it, then you deny the project. So that's why, because they shared some of those concerns. They're like, we don't just want to open it up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they were more okay with having it only be considered under a development agreement proposal, because that's one of the few places that we actually are allowed to still control the design of a project. That's one of the exception's not the right word, but that's one of the areas where the state, when they passed that law removing cities' ability to regulate design, that's one of the places where they left it that cities can, if it's a project that's going to be considered with a development agreement.
So I guess my question is, I've never considered a twin patio home. Is there such a thing?
She actually gave a few examples
Okay.
that Ryan had mentioned, or Councilmember Swap had mentioned. He had driven through the neighborhoods. Those were the ones where he had said that the streets were narrow, which is
Typically, they're not two. Typically, they're 3 or 4. But depending on the number of allowed units and the layout of their property, there have been a few that I've seen that where there's just 2. But it's not typical, but I have seen it before.
is and I don't know if you can answer this, Sherry, or if Matt can, but there's a small subdivision or a development rather on 2550 where they're attached single level homes. Do you know what I'm talking about? Or do you?
Not off the top of my head.
The back of them faces the street and there's vinyl fencing, so it's easy to miss when you're driving down there. But and I can't remember what the
You talking about
west
Hidden,
is.
Hidden Hollow?
Possibly.
These ones right here.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's those ones.
These cross street.
That would be
2300 West.
Villas at,
That's not
at
Hidden
Country
Hollow.
Haven.
Yeah,
That's what?
not Hidden Hollow.
Oh. Is that, do we know what zone that is?
I can-
And if those are considered patio homes or those twin homes?
I believe there are 3. That's usually what it is, but let me just pull up that zoning real quick.
It appears to be in groups of 3 and a couple 2.
It was developed under a mixed use.
Okay. It's not really relevant now. I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. I'm very nervous about approving anything with a 0 lot line for that purpose. And, obviously the council has the final say on an MDA, but at the same time, we've seen things go through where MDAs were really not beneficial to the city at all, but a developer got a lot of density and a lot of what they wanted, and the city got very little out of that. So that's my concern.
Yeah, and I share your concern with MDAs as I've gone through them and read them. Amy and I have had multiple conversations about them. Ed and I have had multiple conversations about them. One of the things, and just like more broadly speaking with MDAs, not specific to this, but one of the things that I'm working on with Amy and with Matt is to create more of a template that we can use so that we're getting more specific on, okay, this is exactly what they get in return. This is exactly what the city gets. Because I think through no real fault of anybody's, I think there's been conversations about what's going to happen with them, but then at some point those conversations don't get codified's not the right word, don't get concretely put into the MDA.
Yep.
So things like what you're talking about happens. Like that's something that we're working to change.
And I appreciate your work on everything. And I think that, like, I get your point with the 0 lot lines. I just get nervous.
Oh, and I understand that. And if you're not there, you're not there.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I can pitch it till I'm blue in the face and tell you that I think they're great and that I think they bring a great diversity and housing to the city. But if you're not there, I don't expect you to be there just because I think it's a good idea.
Sure.
Sherry, forgive me, I'm new, so this might be a dumb question, but on when they bring in an MDA, can we deny it for any reason or be specific reasons? Let's say we decided we don't want 0 lot lines in that area or whatever.
Yeah. So there. Oh,
Does this allow us that flexibility to just say, you know what, we're not going to do it there?
you can deny it if you're not comfortable with it. There's 2 types of MDAs. There's an administrative MDA, which is just memorializing things that are already in city code. And then there's a legislative MDA that it doesn't, I don't want to say that it works outside of city code, but Amy, can you think of a better way to say that?
It works with city code,
Yeah.
and lots of times it has to do with if the city feels like they want a road, but it's going to cost a certain amount of money if we had to pay for the road. then, you know, we're basically giving up certain things instead of paying them money for that road. Like if we wanted it a certain place, or we want a trail system, or we want, you know, certain things that we would end up having to pay a property owner with. This is a way to negotiate that without us having to spend, you know, taxpayer money for it. So it works with
Yeah.
city code.
Yeah, so if I'm hearing right, this just gives us the flexibility if we did want to do that, but we don't have to allow it if we decide that's not in the city's best interest in that particular area.
Yeah, if you see somewhere, if someone proposes it and you're comfortable with it and you're comfortable with the design and all of that, then you can approve it. If you're not comfortable with it, then you say no.
I mean, there are times when the city has said the price is too much. Density,
Yeah.
they want all this density, but what they're proposing to give us back in return is just too much, and you can say no.
Okay.
It's just an option.
Yeah, and I certainly am not saying that in that MDA they get increased density, unless there's some overwhelming benefit that they can demonstrate to this city. I think the density is the density. So, and like I said, that being said, if you're not ready to go there, if you're not comfortable with it, I don't have a problem taking it out.
To share some opinion with the council, in driving through the Syracuse subdivision today, that was a gorgeous subdivision, with the exception of the tiny roads. If it had the roads of North Ogden, that would have been beautiful. And the reason that subdivision was so beautiful is the architecture and the way that everything was kind of laid out. The depth from the back of the curb varied on every property. It was never the same. The landscape was different. It was actually aesthetically pleasing with the same density we probably would have. If we look at Green Farms Patio Homes Phase 1, you had a long straight road where all the houses are different styles, but they're all the same distance off of the road. They're all the same driveways. They're different colors, but it just feels plain and cookie cutter, where this type of development was actually very, very beautiful. So something to
Yeah, it
think about.
seems like this would allow us that flexibility to
And under an MDA, we could look at that. This Syracuse subdivision was all brick and masonry with
request that,
architect.
whereas we may be locking ourselves into
Correct.
to not being able to do that
Yeah.
otherwise.
But why do we want it to say shall not be required to maintain minimum lot sizes? As part of the MDA, they don't have to have minimum lot sizes.
Well, there's two. The minimum lot sizes are harder to do with zero lot lines just because of how they're attached. There's two ways that this ordinance is governed. The ownership on attached patio homes is similar to the ownership with a condo. You just own the footprint of it. And so similar to how in a condo project, the density governs more than the minimum lot size. This is similar to that.
I don't know how you would regulate a minimum lot size with 4 homes attached to each other.
Yeah.
That's what makes it difficult.
Any other questions, council? Looks like we have a lot of changes if we decide to move forward with it. There's 2 things we could probably do. There's the option to table, and there's the option to move forward with it at this point with the changes that are there in the motion.
I had some grammar mistakes, but Emily's not here to record them anyway.
Send those to me.
Sure.
I'm open for a motion if anyone would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve. Let's see, I'm trying to get the wording on this.
Just read it on this paper.
Yeah, just,
Just, I guess,
there you
move
go.
forward with, action on ordinance 04-2022 ordinance regulating patio homes with the changes that have been requested.
Okay.
Matt, do you think those have been recorded?
Yeah, is that sufficient? In the motion.
I don't have those changes. Do you have those changes?
I do.
You do have them? Okay.
Yeah.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Is that 2 nays? Okay. Ordinance passes. So we'll move forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry, for answering all my questions.
We'll move on to item number 5B, which is action on ordinance 052022, ordinance standardizing the definition of an acre. Turn that back over to you again.
I'm not sure there's much of an introduction. This just goes through and makes, for purposes of development in the zones, it just standardizes the definition of an acre to the actual measurement of an acre. It does away with some of those unintentional density bonuses that we've seen pop up. On the record, I said this in planning commission, and I'll go on the record and say here, just so it's very clear, this does not affect people's animal rights. The planning commission wanted to make that very clear. I wanted to make that very clear. We've left the definitions and the 20,000, 40,000 as they stand in the animal ordinance. This doesn't affect that at all. This just affects the development of property for residential purposes.
Thank you for your work on this, Sherry. This is, I think, a
Awesome.
really important ordinance because it helps decrease density throughout the city going forward and keeps us at a standard. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Happy to do it.
Well, with that, I move that we approve ordinance 05-2022, standardizing the definition of an acre to an actual acre.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes.
Roll call.
What's that?
It requires a roll
Oh,
call.
we gotta do a roll call on that one? My apologies. These are on action on ordinances, so we do need to, okay. Can we back up? Okay, 'cause you left the room.
We got out of control here.
We got out of control. It was mainly Nina again.
It was
Nina.
me.
No, so we'll back up and let's go ahead and finish this ordinance that we have out here. So we have the motion, we have the second. Let's go ahead and do a roll call on that particular one. We'll do, I think we got everybody down here. Let's do Councilmember Schwab,
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders,
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
and Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
and Councilmember Call.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, we're going to move back to action item 5 on our agenda. We'll go back to A, is action on ordinance 042022, ordinance regulating patio homes. And we'll do we got a motion and a second on that. We'll go ahead and do a roll call on that. We'll do Councilmember Call,
Nay.
Councilmember Morse,
Nay.
Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders,
Aye.
and Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
Okay, and motion passes on that one. Thank you, Emily, for keeping us straight on that. Appreciate that. Plus, I wanted to repeat it again. It was better that way. Let's go ahead and move on to our next item on here on our agenda, item number 6. This is advice and consent of one West Haven Special Service District Board member appointment submitted by Mayor Vanderwood. This is to fill a remaining 4-year term position that was available due to the resignation of Karen Barnes. The remaining term will be from January 1, 2020 through December 31st, 2023. So this will just be filling in that gap. The submitted name on here that we have through advice and consent to be consent of the council and the board chair was for Mr. Dale Allen. And open for any discussion on that board member appointment.
Mayor, you had some great candidates, so that was a tough choice.
It was tough. And we appreciate those people that put forth their opportunity and candidacy for these positions. So we're going to move forward with this candidate, and I'm ready for a motion if there's no other discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead. Can we do a roll call on this one too? Oh, really? Okay, we'll do a motion on this one. All approve, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Perfect. We'll go ahead and let Mr. Allen know that he's been approved on here. Thank you, council. Appreciate that. Moving on to the next item on here, item number 7 is discussion and possible action on lease property at 3325 West, 4000 South on a horse pasture. We'll turn this time over to Matt.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. What we have is as the council knows, we have several parcels throughout the city that we've made available to lease. And I must correct on the lease abstract, I have a little typo. It's Brett and Jill Coombs, not Brent. And Brett and Jill are available. If they'd like to come up to the podium while I just introduce. Per our lease process, we've proposed a sample lease abstract with the aforementioned spelling correction. The property that we're looking at is at approximately 3325 West, 4000 South. This is the area that has the large U-shape stormwater from the 4000 South project. It's just right at 5 acres. Jill Coombs reached out to me. They were looking for some property to be able to run their horses on there. And where the property is fenced, it has security on there. This is something that we thought we could entertain for the city. This property has been a topic for some possible development, namely by the Space Center that was coming up. But following our basic lease abstract and lease proposal, we would be setting it up on a year-to-year basis, initial 1-year term with 3 additional 1-year terms. So there could be some flexibility, and we would give the Coombs due notice based on that. Per our policy, it's set up on the rate, the base rate as the USDA and AISS rates are, which is $46 per acre at this time. And one of the issues that we would need to point out is there is no water service here. The Coombs have said they would make arrangements, including bringing water in on a truck if necessary, to make sure their horses are taken care of. From the staff side point, we're cognizant of the proximity of 4000 South. Just a little bit, there's been a few concerns expressed on safety, so we'd want to reiterate making sure the gates are secured. That would be a requirement with the Coombs. And but also this would reduce some of the maintenance that our parks and rec individuals have to do as they go out and intermittently mow down the weeds and such. We'd anticipate the Coombs to take over maintenance, and of course the horses to enjoy that, hopefully, mostly. So with that, as part of our lease process, we bring it before the council for consideration. Options are to approve for the city manager to proceed with the contract, which we would then bring back a finalized contract to the council at the next meeting. They could also deem to require a public hearing, just to allow neighbors to hear on this. Neighbors to the south, there is some development going on there with some houses. However, livestock was previously been on this property and in the adjacent property. Property to the east is Rocky Mountain power lines, so I don't think they'll have too much of a concern with it. But we have the option to have a public hearing, or if the council has severe reservations on that, you can just deny the request for a lease. And we have the Coombs here to introduce themselves and answer any questions that you might have.
So I have just a couple of questions. I guess mainly you know, my biggest concern, and I expressed this to Matt, I used to lease horse property right across the street. It was several years ago. We had a lot of horses there on that property, close to 4,000. There was an incident where there was a large storm and one of the horses broke down the gate and all of them got out, and my horse got killed on 4,000. So I have a little bit of a reservation there with liability for the city, where this is now a 4-lane road. The speed limit's quite a bit faster than it was then. I'm just a little bit concerned. Also, so just kind of want to fill out what kind of fence we got there. How secure do you, what assurances can you give the city that those horses won't get out?
Well, the horses, right? Kind of not gonna break
Right.
anything. But obviously, we would definitely want to would lock them, and we have looked at 4,000 being a main street, high speeds in that sense. But we definitely put a lock. Currently, it's a barbed wire fence. It does have some wire around it. I'd be happy to put in an electrical fence if that would help too, which that does help. And horses don't like electrical fence; they can run off of a solar panel. That's not a problem. If the council would feel that we would need to do that, I'd be happy to do it. I have had concerns of people walking up and down the street wanting to play with the fence and let a horse out, and that's where I would definitely lock it.
Put up an electric fence.
Yeah, keep them out and the horses in, right?
Have you walked the perimeter and everything and looked at the fencing around there? Does it feel like it's adequate to you?
I've just walked the front on 4,000. I didn't actually go into the property, but we would be happy to do that with permission.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to walk that yet, Matt?
I haven't walked it this year. I've walked it previously. The fences are in pretty good condition, but we could definitely review that with the Coombs and make arrangements to make sure it's, you know, kind of a pre-lease and after lease for sure as we go through. Sure.
I think the council member Saunders' point, you know, we want to make sure they're maintained. Do you live close by that area as well?
We do.
Okay, so,
A little west of here.
Yeah, west of 4,000.
okay. So you'll see them daily then, obviously?
Yeah, for
Okay.
Well,
Thank you.
then,
That's something, if we see anything go down, we would replace and we'd take care, and even maybe add more if we had to, whatever we need to.
So I guess the next question, along with that, with someone other than the city maintaining the fence, what kind of liability? This is probably a question for Amy. What kind of liability does the city open itself up to if something like that did happen?
So basically how we deal with that is we put an indemnification clause in the lease. We would likely be sued if a horse got out and there was damage done just because we're the deep pockets. However, we would probably be able to get dismissed out of it because of governmental immunity, unless they could demonstrate that there was gross negligence on our part in some way, or where if the lease failed to make sure and have in it a clear and unambiguous indemnification clause that they're responsible and they would the lessees would be indemnifying us from all of those types of damages. I believe that Matt don't you still have the lease that we worked on? And we put that kind of language in there regarding the indemnification and making sure. I mean, another possibility is you could always see whether or not they could get an insurance policy.
And name the city as additional insured. How do you feel about that?
I'd want to talk to an insurance agent just to see what it would take. Our animals are insured, so that's one thing that they are insured that way.
just liability or collision.
Get out and the car hits them, obviously I'm liable. I wanted to be covered for them and so.
And so that might just be a question just to ask your agent, hey, if we have the animals on the city's piece of property, can we name them as an additional insured?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Matt, is that $46 a month or $46 a year per acre?
That's a year rate.
Good deal, I think.
Yeah, it is a good deal.
One other question, sorry, I don't mean to dominate this discussion, but how many horses do you plan on having? It seems like we're allowing up to 10. That seems like quite a bit for that space. I mean, typically you'd need 2 to 4 acres per horse if you're just trying to get them to graze off that property.
We have 6 horses, and we have another pasture as well that we would rotate.
Okay, so there'd be
And so-
some rotating going on. Okay,
Put it down, rest it, and then if it grows back, we
Great.
can bring it back.
okay.
I
Appreciate
think,
that.
what's the zone over there?
That zone is actually open space because of that detention pond office. So that would be something we'd have to consider if we were ever to have any development there.
Just asking because the animal keeping ordinance would allow more than 10, but we're capping it at 10. Is that correct?
Yeah, because of the water and the storm drain, I didn't want to overtax the property.
No,
so we
I
just kind of put
agree with that
amount in
for
there.
sure. I mean, we've had issues already with other properties, so
I haven't been around if they've leased that before, but there's some pretty deep holes in that property over there. Are you concerned with your horses getting into that?
I would like to walk it as well. I mean, because from the road, it does look, I'd like to take a closer look.
Yeah. Okay, just for safety purposes, because we don't want your horses getting hurt either.
We don't want one submerged
sure.
in water we have to pull out.
Okay.
Sorry to correct, that zoning is under a mixed use, according to the map that was online.
Can we rezone that, Matt?
Allowed horses.
Of course, there's always that process to
I
do
just
so.
don't like mixed use, so.
Yeah.
well, that's what it is currently zoned at.
Does mixed use allow for horses? It allows for everything else under the sun. Does it specifically say no horses?
We would probably be looking under the animal keeping ordinance. Which,
Goes by the size of the lot instead of the zoning.
yes.
It says mixed use. No animals from the animal category A or B are allowed on any lot under 3/4 of an acre.
Oh, okay. So we're okay.
So it's over that. It's okay.
Well, we like the country feel out here, so I always move too quickly, so I will wait for a minute.
Do we have any other questions for the council?
I don't think so. I think just from my own perspective and something that I think we try very hard to hold on to in West Haven is that country-like atmosphere, the animals and things like that. We have had issues in the past with leasing property to people with animals, but I always like to see us try to do that because I think it's cool to see them out there. And I do think this is a good deal on both sides, of course. I mean, we don't have to maintain it. You guys will do that for us with your horses, so I don't have any issues with this.
Okay. Any other comments? Open for a motion.
I move that we approve the lease property to the Coombs on, put my glasses on, 3325 West, 4000 South for a horse pasture, as stated in the proposed lease agreement.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes. Did we need to include that insurance into that as well, into that motion?
It's up to,
I think,
I would maybe
Think we need to?
suggest in the motion that you authorize Matt to enter into negotiations for the lease.
Okay.
And then they bring the lease back to you guys.
Okay, so I made the
and
wrong
then-
motion. Okay.
Then you can see the lease and see what they found out about the insurance.
Excellent.
Okay, I take back that lease, or that motion. I move that we allow Matt to go forward with the Coombs to negotiate a contract for the lease with looking at insurance specifically.
I want to read the address one more time.
Oh, Really? Okay.
Well, I'm being picky today because,
At 3325 West, 4000 South in West Haven.
Still second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. All that approve, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, looks like we cleared it through. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll be in touch with you the first part of next week, just to arrange a walk around and kind of look into it. So if you want to check into the insurance, we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to action item number 8 on here, discussion and possible action for a junior high gymnasium. This has been very interesting as we've bounced back and forth a little bit on this, but we've had some good discussion. The council was able to go out on a field trip with this for South Ogden Junior and for a own property that was in Farmington. It was nice to get out and see how that came about and what some of the issues and concerns might be. I think I want to open it up to the council to have some discussion. Or Matt, would you like to lead the discussion?
Just as a preface to anyone who doesn't have the agenda or whatnot, or the entire packet, what this includes is the new junior high that's being built on 2700 South and approximately 2700 West and 2200 South. The school district came with an option to partner with the city to construct an additional gymnasium. And they've done this in the past with South Ogden Junior High, which has allowed the city to save money on facilities, to facilitate their recreation and other programs, city event programs for a much reduced rate and kind of a shared facility on that. We've been looking at it quite a bit. They're under construction right now, and we have a short window where we can join in with them. The tab for the city would be in between $3 and $3.5 million, which would allow us to have access to those courts going forward. Their expected construction date is 2024, August 24 as they'll bring that online. And we'll be able to run those facilities without spending the additional money that would be required for the city to build facilities of their own. South Ogden has seen this as a great opportunity to maximize dollars as well as facilities, and to use facilities when the school isn't, and vice versa. This is a major decision. And I know the council does not go into this lightly. And this is not, the action tonight is not a full-fledged go ahead, but it does allow us to be able to authorize me and with the assistance of the mayor to go forward and negotiate with the school district to hammer out details for a full consideration by the council on this major investment in our community.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. Council, we'll open it up for questions. And
I think I only have a statement, and that was really that I think most of you are aware that I was really opposed to this last year when it was first presented, because it felt like it would be a benefit to 3% of our residents, and I didn't like spending that kind of money on a small percentage of residents and not allowing other residents to have use of that facility. That was something I had a really hard time with. In the past, probably month or so, we've gone on the field trip to look at some other gyms, and we've been presented with all of this information from Brock and James about the types of programs we can have there and the types of events we can do there, and I certainly feel better about it when I see that it could actually benefit a lot of our residents. When we talk about really having activities that would benefit more than just youth sports, I think is important. Some of the programming we talked about was not just basketball, but pickleball and volleyball and it basically any kind of ball and recreation camps.
Dodgeball.
aerobic activities, senior activities are a possibility.
Senior dodgeball.
When I looked at it originally, it just felt like something that, wow, why would we spend this much money for kids, and my kids included, that are in basketball? Why would we spend this much money on a facility that would only benefit my kids and a few other kids in the city? I didn't like that. But I see this as something that could benefit the city as a whole now that we've gone through this process and we've gotten so much more information this time around than we did originally. And in fact, when this first came to us, I don't know, a month or so ago, I still was skeptical. And then going through this process and learning more about what we can do there and how it can benefit the rest of our community, I definitely feel better about it. So that's my thoughts on it. I wanted you all to know that I was firmly against it the last time it was brought to us, but I feel a lot better about it now. So, and I don't think I have any questions.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I would also like to say that I think this is like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I mean, how often do you get to work with a school to improve your recreation programs and get more space? And what I told Matt the other day is when we talk about our strategic initiatives to strengthen community identity by providing resources for events and activities, I think this just goes right in line with it. And I'm really excited about it. I think we should move forward with the contract and see what comes out of that.
Okay, thank you.
I only have a comment as well. I feel like recreation programs in general are vital to a community. Our kids, in today's world, we're always struggling to get them, off the couch and off the phones. And after seeing the struggle that our recreation department has with existing facilities and looking at the cost to have just our own facility, I think this is a great compromise because it allows us to get the space that we need at a lower cost, albeit it is a big cost, and the council would never, go forward with something this large without serious consideration. And after looking at it, I think it's a great project, and I appreciate the work that our recreation department and Matt specifically and everyone have put in to researching this and kind of bringing it to us and kind of answering our questions and concerns.
I would just like to add to, for those that weren't able to attend the field trip, we did visit the Farmington City Gym that was built by Farmington City, and I believe when they built it in 2016 at a cost of $9.5 million, which is something that is, it's out of reach for a city like ours, and it's not something I could see us doing anytime soon. And so I think that's something we have to consider. We're running out of space. We don't have space for events. We don't have community rooms other than the one that's in this building. And I can't see us spending, it would be more than that now because, the cost of building materials. I can't see us spending that much money on a facility for our residents. So something to consider.
Thank you for the comments. Appreciate that. Any other comments or questions?
You're talking about all events ball, which is true, but I don't think we can accommodate anything else there when we talk about senior things unless we store tables and chairs, right? We can't have anything else there unless we own them and we have the storage capacity. So if we're going to do that and call it something else for more residents, then we have to have those items.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
Like there's no way you could have the lunch in there if you don't have tables and chairs.
Yeah,
So-
and I know that when we did attend the owned property by Farmington, they did not want tables and chairs on their floor.
Right.
It was a big deal for them to not have that, although they did have some. They had some there.
Yeah.
So I assume that they probably do a few things, but not very often. I think the other option with this too, to your point, Councilmember Call, is that, you know, we've been also looking at trying to put together a possible community center / senior center. This would possibly allow us to look at that and see when we could schedule something like that in the future. So, and with that type of community room, we would have plenty of room to hopefully do those kind of things. So I think that as we've looked at this, especially where Councilmember Morse and the rest of you, that Councilmember Saunders was also there, it was very eye-opening for us to look at that because of the costs. The other parts was the maintenance, was very large maintenance bills for the owned property. And with the maintenance that we have with the school district would be shared, and the costs were relatively minimal compared to that. So again, it's been kind of a game changer and a little bit of a different view. What we would be looking at as a motion tonight, as we've explained in the work session prior as well, is that we're looking for the opportunity to move forward with this. And that would mean negotiating a contract and working with the school district on this overall, and making sure that we have all the information that we need as a city, that the investment that we're making is appropriate for that. So I'm hoping that tonight, if that's something that the council is looking forward to, then as you add in the motion that this is going to be something that, again, as Matt mentioned, to approve that the city manager / mayor negotiate for this shared space project.
Something else to consider that we haven't really discussed is that contract. And one of the things that came up during our meeting with South Ogden was the importance of the language in that contract. I mean, that's everything. And of course, we all know that, but they've said that the contract, both sides actually, the school and the school administrator and the public works director or the Parks and Rec director for South Ogden have both said that the contract saved them tremendously. I mean, on both sides, they could just always go back to the contract. And I think contract language is going to be very important when we talk about usage for the city. So something, I mean, if we go through with this and we move on to the contract, we've really got to nail down contract language and what our usage is.
Okay. Any further discussion? Questions? Comments? Ready for a motion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we move forward with entering into contract discussions on a junior high gymnasium partnership with the school district, with the city. Anything else in that language that I should
just
add?
allowing the city manager.
Allowing the city manager and the mayor to enter into negotiations.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, did we need to amend our impact fee plan and assessment with this motion?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we can do that. We talked about that in our work meeting. Do we need to add that into our discussion, Matt, on this?
You can have the initial
Motion.
motion, then a second motion to go ahead and proceed with that, or combine the two.
Should we just combine it?
So, I'm not sure the correct language, so
You can
maybe
just-
it'd be
you
best
can
to
just
have a
add that in.
second motion.
You want me to give the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give the motion for the mayor and the city manager to enter negotiations with Weber School District for the means of a contract, and also to amend the current impact fees planned and impact fees assessment.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Thank you for patience on that, making sure we got the language right on that.
We'll get there one day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any further discussion at
learning.
all? Okay. All approve, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Okay, it looks like the motion passes. This will again just be for the negotiation. We will bring this to the body of the council once the contract is negotiated for review and approval. Thank you, council. All All right, let's move on to the next item on here. Item number 9 on here is discussion and possible action for 1800 South Sidewalk Project. This item has been presented to the council earlier, quite a while ago, actually. We put it in the budget for our 2021-22. This has connection to our 1800 road and widening project, and also adding a potential boulevard that would be kind of like, I guess we'll call it a boulevard, but an added street that would actually go from 1800 down to 2100 south on there. This sidewalk project, though, it's a safety factor that we want to bring to the council tonight for review. And we've received some great emails and calls about this project to make sure that the council's aware of what their feelings about that. One thing to keep aware is that this is a temporary, will probably be a temporary item that will be put in, and it will have some cost involved with it, where eventually this could be torn up to put in the full-time road, the road that will be there permanently to connect this boulevard or the streets that we'll be adding. This is also connected to a WACOG project that will commence in 2024. And there's a lot of projections and design and everything that needs to go into this project. So it's just early for this, but however, the situation that we have is a strip of area leading to the trail from one of the subdivisions. The caveat to that is that you don't have anything really on the east or west side of the sidewalks supplying anybody else for that. So it's something to keep in mind as we talk about this. But again, I'll open up questions and some things that the council can review.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to start because this is my project that I started before. Excuse me. And I understand that, this is going to be a cost, but, when you're thinking about 2024 and we don't know what it will look like, what Matt and I looked at the other day was we think that there can be some lesser, rather than using concrete, maybe using asphalt to cut the cost, just so that we can get the kids down there. There are over, I think, 150 children in the Holmes subdivision, and they are always coming to the trail. So in my mind, in order to provide safety for them to get down to the trail that we manage and are trying to get people to, I think this is an important thing.
And I did fail to mention that this was something that Councilmember Dixon brought up to the council as well.
So I do have some questions, and I don't know if Matt or Sherry, which one of you are the best to answer this. It looks like there are 4 parcels that are be affected by the widening of this road. Now, we had a meeting, it was a week or 2 ago, when we discussed about property lines.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know where that property line is today? Are we planning on moving the fence if we approve this temporary sidewalk? Or is the sidewalk going to go right next to the fence, which only allows 6 feet between the fence and the road that's there currently?
Yeah, right now, our anticipation is not to minimize impact on property lines, and that we do have right-of-way that extends into some of those right now, or projected to go in there. This temporary patch would try to minimize any right-of-ways. I can't tell you which exactly ones. We do have a fence line on 2 of the properties that it would be right up against, and we don't have a full survey on that. That would be something that we'd have to look at and just work with the property owners on to make sure we do. With the space that is there, I mean, we do have space for a hard surface, whether asphalt or concrete, walking path. Right now, I would, especially with the temporary nature, like Councilmember Dixon said, we would probably just go with asphalt. And so we're hoping to minimize impact on those and take care of. I can't say exactly if we would. I mean, there's one property that I think we might have to impact, but we haven't approached the property owners on that yet.
Well, and we have one property owner here tonight, which we will impact, and she also is for this. She can see the kids going past her home all the time. And so, you know, I know it's not a long-term fix, but there would be so much time in order to do a long-term fix. I just think that we need to do something temporarily before 2024. So it's just really concerning to me. Matt, is this a state road or is this our road?
This is our road.
Could we, after we put the asphalt trail in there, repaint that so that the road is painted, you know, on where the road is versus the trail or the sidewalk?
Oh, as far as the striping and that?
Yeah,
Yes.
stripe it. I mean, it's not perfect. It's safer than it is now. And I think we can do it at a lower price than we had anticipated when we did the budget.
So it's my understanding that we want to look at this as a safety aspect here. Right now, currently from the fence to the existing lane, which would be westbound traffic, I mean, I think it's less than 8 feet in a few spots that's already being traveled. Now, to spend $100,000 or less than $100,000 doesn't make any sense for me just to turn that 8 feet into a hard surface. Or if it's a sidewalk, it'd be an elevated hard surface. I don't think that's improving safety. I think if we want to look at safety, it's moving the fences back and allowing those kids and other walkers and joggers more space between traffic. I think that's where we're going to get safety. Just by paving it or concrete doesn't improve safety. That's such a narrow lane to begin with, and the cars are going so fast that I think if we're going to spend money to make that safe, we need to make it safe, not just pave it.
So I guess, Matt, the question would be, how much more would we have to budget if we were going to do it in a different way?
Well, I have a proposal to that as well, Matt, if I may. If we move the fencing back to where we believe, or where we have it surveyed, that is the easement area, we could easily just road base that section. It's less than 800 feet. And that surface by itself would be a safe area. There's about 24 feet from back of sidewalk to the edge of the lane of traffic currently. So 24 feet, if we were to move the fences back, that's a safe zone for kids and for bicycles and strollers to make it up and down. The road base isn't a permanent solution, but it's a much cheaper solution. It's better for the city as far as budgeting, and it would be good for anybody with any wheeled carts or strollers, to that matter.
The one issue is there is one specific property that doesn't have a fence, but if we were to push it back to the proposed right-of-way, we would likely have to purchase the whole property. It's that close to the road. And so we trigger some major right-of-way acquisitions to accommodate the sidewalk on the proposed corridor.
So to confirm, we don't have a right-of-way on that person's property to put a sidewalk in unless we purchase part of their property.
On this one, we would have, some of these are old enough where we don't have it. Some we do. It's kind of like 3300 South, some which have subdivided, but we do have some older houses that we do not have the right-of-way.
Is that something that we can view before we make a decision? It's kind of hard to throw a bunch of money out to put a hard surface down, not giving any more space from the traffic to the pedestrians.
Yeah, see if you can...
I mean, I'm looking at Weber County Gizmo's map right here, and it appears that it shows the property line further back in, but again, this is just rough lines.
Yeah, Gizmo, you gotta hold off on it a little bit. This right here's where the trail comes off of the 2350 west. This property has a fence line that would be right up against based on this one. This area has a curved driveway that kind of goes up. This house was pushed forward because the piped canal goes around it for some reason, which was done years ago. And this house is very close to the line. If we were to push it back, and you can kind of see where the sidewalk is, the alignment of the sidewalk for a permanent area, it actually would compromise their garage, a little lean-to carport that they have on here, and put this in non-conformance. Any kind of right-of-way purchasing on that one, because of the age of this house, would likely require us to buy the whole property.
So is it most likely the intent with this WACOG money and the extension to 21st that we're going to purchase that property anyways?
It is likely.
Is there any other options that we can do to provide safety to the pedestrians here instead of just changing the surface they're walking on?
Well, changing the surface they're walking on does help because of the loose gravel, and that does cause issues and uncertainty, especially in inclement weather. And that was kind of the goal of this temporary patch, was to improve that for bikers, kids on strollers, scooters, and those kind of things. This is only looking at about a 3 to 5 year patch. And so when we have other monies coming in that enables the city to contribute and do right-of-way purchases, it's, there's questions on priorities and timing of those things to consider.
I have a follow-up question to kind of go along with what Councilmember Swab brought up. So if we were to do a temporary type solution to this, which it sounds like that's kind of what's on the table, could we move part of it back until we hit that property so that it's, and jog back out?
It's pretty much right there right now.
You know what I'm saying? On the rest of it, if we moved it in to address some of your concerns about the width.
It would just reduce the time somebody would have out on the road.
Right. It's not a perfect solution, but maybe it would, it's just a shorter area where it's, where they've got to get by. I know it's not the ideal situation, but it might help us, get by until the larger project comes and they actually have to buy the property.
And that's one of the things is as you look at the designs where we don't, and I'm just scrolling down to get there. This area, how this intersection goes with that project from 1800 down to Wilson Lane is up for several questions. As you can see, that property that we're looking at will be likely will have to be impacting it in one way or the other one. This one, there's some questions. These might not be at all, hardly at all. In fact, we might be asking them to take on some property in this little Y shape. And so that's one of the questions is, do we push and make these purchases or secure this property when this final design on 1800 to Wilson Lane isn't finalized? So
right, and I'm not suggesting that. I'm more suggesting that we make the path wider where we can, where we do have, and then on this property where we don't have a lot of room, to be it would kind of be jogged back out to accommodate their property, but it would lessen the time that you're closer to the traffic and still give a pathway.
Is there an option to, just looking at this again, is there an option to, because of, this is for Holmes property or Holmes subdivision, right? Right. So is there a possibility that people are trying to get to the trail? Could we get access through some of the homes up in the top half of it versus staying out on the road?
We had talked about that, Ken and I, and I think that it's probably a possibility. I'm not sure where that would go. It would have to go along the back of the property, and then you're going to be on Pedersen's property because the fence of West Haven is the fence. After the fence to the north behind the Homes in Homes Estate, it is Wendell Holmes' property. So it's not even in West Haven. So that in itself could be problematic.
But it looks like you might have like the Buettner's property that's pretty good sized over there that.
Okay, slow down. I'm not sure where we're at.
Just up in the corner on the northeast corner.
Okay, you mean at that little?
Yes.
Okay, so.
And then maybe, this is just an option. I'm just trying to see if there's another option out there. And then maybe trying to see if you can work your way through.
Well, yeah, if we. if we could do that, I mean, if that was a possibility, you would go through the corner and then you would come up that house right there. You would, I'm not sure if there's even an easement there. I know we had an easement there when we had our irrigation system there. So, Matt, can you go up to where the dotted red line is and go straight across to that property right there? Yeah. We do have a utility easement right there from our subdivision for water that we gave up when we got secondary water. So, and from there they could go right into the cemetery and hit the trail. So I guess it's a possibility considering this property owner right here and maybe between these two houses right here.
Right where?
Sorry, go to that.
You see Kim's finger from there?
Yeah, so go to that diagonal line. Okay, that house right there, where this one down. Nope.
That's between Orville's.
Right. This is Tucker's right here, and they have a field. Okay, so Buettner's are right there, right here. So that is Tucker's home, and then they have a field right there, and then there is a utility easement on the Huffaker home. I know that we had for the subdivision when we built it, so I don't know.
Amy, a utility easement doesn't necessarily give access to pedestrians, correct? That's just for utility. Public is not authorized to access?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Forget that one then. You know, and maybe if we approach them, they might be willing to help.
I mean, we're just looking for temporary, right?
Kim, I got a question for you.
Okay.
So we're looking at trail access. What about kids getting to and from their school bus stop or walking to school? We have a junior high going up there. I assume we'll not start school until probably fall of '24.
Yes.
Guessing.
Well, okay, for the school, they go right into the Holmes property, and then they go right down 2350 to the cemetery. So there's no problems with the school buses right now.
So I'm just wondering if it makes sense more to come down towards like the Harrison's property if we were looking for some type of temporary. That way it's closer to the main road, but.
Right. This is Janet Harrison.
You have got a trail that is blocked right now, that's just east of Kim's Road. Do you know which one I'm talking about, Kim?
Uh-huh.
That goes just east of the property that you say that you may need to acquire and widen. The property just to the east of us, they have put asphalt in, and I don't know, did you notice that when you were there?
I did not know.
They park their cars out along the street, so they have actually asphalted from the street back. So that's already asphalted, so it's just our property. And if you don't wanna go any further east, why can't you unlock that road? You know where I'm talking about, the access that goes at an angle?
Yeah, they're talking about our access road that gets our trailer out of our property. But I'm not sure how we would get there, Jen. I see what you're saying. Instead of going across the Hansons, we would just go up and unlock that road. Right. I would like, before we make a decision, and I'm really cognizant of school getting out and having this problem, but maybe there are other options we can explore with the thought that something has to be done. Okay,
Agreed.
whatever that turns out to be, there has to be something to make it safer for those kids. So whether it's going out to that property on the corner in the homes on the south, northeast corner, and maybe talking to the Tuckers and seeing if they would be willing. Matt, I can go out there with you and kind of show you what I'm talking about, if that would be a possibility. I don't know. I don't know what would be best. I just know we have to do something. And I know it's money, and I know it's not the best alternative, but.
Kim, I don't disagree that that's a safety issue. I have a hard time spending $100,000 for a sidewalk there and then tearing it up Meanwhile, we have a lot of areas in the city that have safety issues where we do need sidewalks, and it would be really hard to watch that sidewalk go in, get torn out, and meanwhile, there are still kids walking to school in the street.
Right.
I have a hard time with that.
Well, and to let you know, when we talked about asphalt, it was about half the cost. So I know that's still a big cost. If the trail wasn't there, I would say, okay, we need to, but we are actually trying to get people to that trail. And so in a sense, I feel responsible that we get them there safely. So however that is, whatever that looks like, something is going to have to be done. And I can't wait till 2024.
Well, why don't we look at some other options maybe? Does the council feel like that's something that you might want to try and look at before we make any decision?
I would love to see all options for that because, again, I don't disagree that it's unsafe, but I mean, we have in this neighborhood that we're all in tonight, we have kids that walk to school in the street every single day and have been for years. And I think we really need to figure out what our priorities are for sidewalks.
I mean, I see your concern, Councilmember Morse, but I'm a little bit sympathetic to the speeds that are going on here.
Oh, sure.
As opposed to in this neighborhood, things are kind of slowed down. So I do think we need to explore the options, definitely. But
I'm sorry.
I feel like if we come up with a temporary solution, it'll be safer, it'll be more cost effective.
One of the other
They'll be addressing some serious concerns.
issues is the amount of cement trucks and gravel trucks and dirt trucks that are going down to the Bingham property right now. I mean, not even counting Wilson Cove or Hawk Haven or Ivory. We have another bunch of trucks that are going down, and I'm sure when the school gets going, there's going to be even more coming down 1800 South. So again, I don't know what the answer is. I know we can't make it perfectly, but we have to do something.
I think if we can review some other options, then that would be helpful for me. And I think the rest of the council, if we get to see what all of our options are on that, it would be
I'm
helpful.
not sure how property acquisition would work when you're trying to go through a house to get through a trail. So that would be one thing that I would be interested in learning about.
Well, I think if it's okay with the council, maybe we could look at possibly tabling this until we can review it.
I totally agree. I just want to stress that school's getting out, and I think that everything's okay until it isn't. Everything's great until somebody gets hurt, and then it's like, ugh. So I agree. Let's look at options and figure out if there's a better option right now or what the best option is, knowing that something has to be done.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm open for a motion.
Well, real quick, Mayor, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So with that being said, just to make sure this doesn't get kicked down the road, I mean, is there something we can do proactively right now? Is it something between Gardner or Ed to go out there and kind of come up with some ideas, maybe in conjunction with Kim, who knows all the neighbors, so we can kind of start brainstorming in the next few weeks?
Oh, definitely. We'll unleash Ed and Gardner, and we'll start looking at what our other options are.
Yeah,
Thank
especially
you.
going through other people's property with a trail.
Yeah, I think we need to get this back on the agenda as soon as possible.
Okay.
I hate to table it, but I think it's the best option.
I appreciate you listening and understanding the great stress that the people in the neighborhood have about this. So we'll get it back. Believe me, it'll be coming back.
Absolutely. All right. I'm ready for a motion.
Move to table agenda item 9, discussion and possible action on 1800 South Sidewalk Project.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Hey,
Any opposed, say nay. Motion approved. All right. Thank you, everyone, for going through that, and we'll jump back on this as soon as possible. Appreciate, Matt, you getting things going with that too. We'll move on to action item number 10, action on resolution 03-2022 for the city vision, mission, strategic initiatives statement as well. And I do want to thank very much so the city council for getting involved with this and involving the planning commission as well as the West Haven Special Service District and the staff. This was well overdue, and I'm really glad to see this coming around, and hope we can get this approved tonight, at least get a version of it completed. So we'll turn the time over to you to ask any questions or make any comments. Any? Everybody loves it?
We love it.
We worked on it for a long time.
We have years.
Mayor,
We've
I
worked on
think
it
we're
for
done.
years.
Well,
All right.
when we say define community development, it says the city will revise the general plan and city code. Is that specific to the city code and not the zoning code? Both codes?
So
What are we referring to?
technically, the city only has a city code. It's only divided on the website. The actual written one is city code.
Okay.
And when we talk about city code, that's all encompassing.
Okay.
Even with the recodification we'll have a zoning section, but city code talks about both.
Okay.
Yes. Good clarification.
Very good. Any other discussion? Okay, I'm open for a motion.
Move to adopt resolution 03-2022 city vision, mission, strategic initiative statement.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call on this. Want to make sure. We'll go ahead and move forward with that. We'll do a roll call with Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab,
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
and Councilmember Call.
Aye.
Motion passes, and thank you for doing that. This is exciting. Yes, Matt?
I'm just going to say we'll get this up on the website first part of next week, and we'll get one printed and posted in the hallway so we can have that
That'll
framed.
be great. This is exciting. Really appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to action item number 11, upcoming events. It looks like we have scheduled our very famous and popular Howdy Hall
It was most popular, I have to say.
with Mayor and friends. Do I have any volunteers for this date this time?
I can be available.
Okay.
Make sure you wear your boots.
Oh, I got them. I'm ready.
Right.
I don't have a hat, but I got boots.
I did last time.
You did?
It
Yeah.
was very styling.
You look nice.
Raising the bar.
Anybody else be able to attend that time?
I can attend as well.
Okay, very good. All right, we'll get that up and running, make sure. We also have our senior lunch bunch. That's been very popular and worked out very well. We really appreciate our seniors. That's March 23rd. I didn't even announce the other at the Howdy Hall either, but those are the same days. And that'll be from 5:30 to 6:30. Our lunch bunch will be earlier in the day at 11:30. We have some really good groups of people. We're playing some games and having some good meals that are coming in. So we appreciate those folks. And then we have the Easter egg hunt that's scheduled for April 16th, 2022 at 9 a.m. And that's being put on by the Youth Council.
It is. We're excited.
Any other upcoming events anybody has?
I just have the Rocky Mountain NAL team will be competing in their nationals. I wrote that down on March 7th at 3:15 at, now I forgot what it was. It is the Centennial. Okay, go somewhere else and I will figure it out. I wrote it down.
Add something else too that we'd like to possibly have. One of our residents has offered to do a lawn and fertilizer and irrigation. Thank you.
Wonder who that
Mr.
is.
Hunter over here from our nursery and so forth has offered. I attended this Saturday version of
Fruit
trimming
trees.
trees and doing all that stuff. Very, very good. He did a great job on that. So, but I would make sure if we can that we try and put something like that together for him in the future here
Oh, I
in the
think
very
that's
near
a,
future.
yeah, that's a great idea.
Especially with limited water, which I think we're going to have. So we need to learn a lot about that.
Yeah, so we'll work on that and make sure that we can get that up and running as quick as possible as well. You got your date yet, Kim?
The date is March 7th at 3:15. It is, oh, here, I found it. Okay, it is at the Centennial Junior High School, and that is, I have to go to the next one, sorry. Oh, it's not gonna let me, sorry. I have too fat of thumbs. Okay, Centennial, and it is, Centennial it's on Sunset in Caseville, sorry. I'm not sure if they're live streaming it yet, but I will find out and I'll email you to see. I think it is a single elimination tournament, so we'll have to see how that goes.
Okay, thank you. Any other updates? I mean, any other events that we've got coming? We'll move on to number 12 then for council updates. The only thing that I wanted to bring up is thank you for those that attended the Weber County Emergency, what was it, the open house that they had. It was really good, and it seemed like we got a chance to look at some of the things that they offer, and I got a chance to meet our Weber County person that we needed for emergency preparedness, and we'll get more engaged with that as the city moves along on that. Any other council updates?
Real quick, met with Brock Randall and Communities That Care briefly this week. They're going to be asking our help on a project that's kind of bringing awareness to the dangers of prescription drugs. And so we're trying to schedule a time for them to come and talk to the council, I believe on the 16th of March, to kind of explain more what that project involves.
Okay.
I am a little confused on my Trails Association and who I'm supposed to be speaking with, but who would I go to for clarification?
We can talk about that if
Okay.
we can after, if that's
All
okay.
right.
Is there any other updates? Yes.
Just one item, Mayor, just wanted to, I know several council members are probably aware of this already. We do have the ULCT, Utah League City-Town Mid-Year Conference coming up, and that's on April 20th to the 22nd. Any interested, start looking at that. There's a discount if we make registration before the end of this month. And also there are first-time attenders discounts. So
You mean first time in St. George or first time to a ULCT conference?
first time to ULCT, just
And
because you got the Dixie dirt in your soles, it's
Well, we've
okay.
been to one in North Salt Lake or whatever it is, so.
Yeah.
Question on that. Is that on a council night, the first night?
The 20th is.
Yeah, we'll discuss that.
Okay.
I
As
move
we
we
get closer.
cancel.
What's that?
Move to cancel.
So what we'll do is we'll discuss with the council and find out what we have that week. If it's busy, we may move it or we may cancel. So we'll see where it goes from there.
I have an update, Mayor, on the events committee. We met for the first time a few weeks ago. Lots of great ideas, a lot of new ideas. So I think West Haven Days is going to be probably bigger than it's ever been. There's a lot of exciting ideas coming. And of course, we're always still looking for volunteers to serve on that committee. So if, anyone in the public wants to serve on it, or if any of you have friends that have been asking about it, they're welcome to join us. And they can contact Brock Randall to get on that committee.
Thank you. Very good. We're excited about that. West Haven Days is going to be a blast this year. It's going to be great. Any other updates? Okay, we'll move on to item 13, adjournment. Make a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Two
All in
seconds.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Great. Thank you again for those that attended tonight. We really appreciate you, and thank you, council.